Electricity is required. You need light, heat, power, and transport to run a modern economy.
Energy and power is really the backbone of our economy. It impacts everything we do, how we get to work, what we do at work, how we power our data centers, all of our industries.
The future requires energy, and energy is increasingly being provided in the form of electricity. As our current economy is a bit more manufacturing intensive, less service intensive, that requires more energy. As the population grows, it requires more energy. And of course, AI is just icing on the cake.
We're seeing significant data center demand. That consumes a lot of energy, as well as the reindustrialization of the U.S. economy.
That incremental demand is hitting a network that was built to provide electricity, that was built over the last century, and it was already in need of maintenance spending to meet even flat demand.
We want to see our energy grids be cleaner. We want to make sure that it's affordable so it supports the economy, and we want to make sure that it's reliable.
The mix had shifted from on-demand resources that are on when you turn them on, like thermal power generation or nuclear, being replaced with cleaner but intermittent sources of power, wind and solar, which were providing power not always when it was needed. And so that was creating a bit more volatility in power prices and straining the grid a bit.
So we think power is really investing in the infrastructure of the past, present, and future. In the electricity markets, we're expecting 40% growth over the next 20 years. That's 4 times the amount of growth that we've seen in the last 2 decades. Energy starts at a natural resource that's converted in something like a power plant and then transmitted to people so that it can be used in their daily lives. So if you look at all the things that we invest in power projects, we invest in those transmission lines. We also invest in all the products and services that are needed in this process.
As a consumer, sometimes you don't think much about what's behind that wall socket, when you plug in a device at home. But there's an awful lot in between, the electrical outlet in your home and the power plant you might see on the news.
When you look at the energy markets, they require a lot of infrastructure. It's very asset intensive, so they require a lot of capital.
Sometimes, especially in the energy markets, the duration required to get the permits, develop and construct energy assets really is beyond the ideal period for a private entrepreneur who may have limited capital. And so that mismatch is a void that as a private control-oriented capital provider, we can and do really step into with gusto. Power is an essential expression of the infrastructure of the future because energy is required for virtually all forms of economic activity. The vast majority of the world's population don't live in a modern economy, and that's precisely where the highest population growth is. So in order to have a reasonable standard of living, better health care, and ideally increasing incomes per capita, there's a huge multiplier effect on the future demand for energy from that part of the world's population.
What I've continued to see is just how much these markets continue to change, how important they are to the economy, how capital intensive they are, and therefore what a tremendous investment opportunity they present for us.
Blackstone is a global firm and energy is a global commodity, and we are investing globally in energy here at Blackstone.